After Barcelona's 2-0 loss to Bayern Munich, I think the big question is there such thing as a moral victory? Right, but Barcelona were the better team for not only much of that first half, but you could argue throughout the full 90 minutes. And they won that expected goals battle 1.98 to 1.58, and that's actually pretty conservative on the Barcelona end of some of the other numbers I've seen. So doesn't the fact that Barcelona played at Bayern's level for so much of this match, doesn't that count for something? Okay, but Barcelona is only in month 2 of this project, and Bayern Munich have been building this juggernaut for years. Plus, Xavi decided to go with a starting lineup that has never played before. So I guess that's a little bit of progress, right? Well, I agree, and I know that Xavi and the players, even more so than culés, will feel demoralized after being better in that first half, and yet still losing 2-0 and coming out of it feeling like you're second best. But I think there's a big difference between thinking this is another in a long line of losses where Barca is inferior and understanding it through the lens of this project's progress. So let's throw away the overt negativity, but let's keep a rein in on our hopeful naivety, and let's try to tackle the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 2-0 loss to Bayern Munich in the Champions League group stage. 1 is right or wrong lineup. I'm not sure about this one. I felt like at the beginning of this, Xavi would pick a lineup, especially once I saw Alonso and Christensen. I would say he's either a genius for getting it right, or he's deserving of all the criticism he gets by getting it wrong. And afterwards, though, I think it's somewhere in the middle, which is a bit not where I expected to land. In the case of Christensen, especially on that second goal that Sané scored, Araujo was at fault, Christensen was at fault, Busquets is at fault, Koundé is at fault. There's a little bit of blame to be shared everywhere. But I think the chemistry between Araujo and Christensen, having never really played as 2 center backs together, was glaring with that spacing. And then Koundé, as a right back, also understanding that he needs to shift over and close down that space, as he was a bit slow to it, that also was pretty telling. And while I would have liked to see Garcia start, I totally understand that he might have had a bit of a knock and wasn't fully 100% to go 90 minutes. And I also thought Christensen was better equipped at dealing with Bayern's movement from that front 4, and his passing fit the game plan just fine. Alonso was also definitely fine going forward, but defensively, like advertised, that's where the issues came. And it came along the same ways that Balde or Alba could have made mistakes. And to make matters worse, he was the one who lost Lucas Hernandez on the opening goal. Would the smaller Balde or Alba lost him? Probably, but Barca likely would have had different matchups. And that's the difference in this game. 2 moments or 2 goals in 4 minutes for Bayern Munich meant that the choices that Xavi made for that starting 11 made a big difference in this game. And that kind of becomes the whole narrative. But not to be too optimistic, considering the circumstances around Alonso starting for the first time in a Barcelona uniform, and Christensen, I guess, finally getting reps in with Araujo at center back and Koundé, and the 2 of them even switched about 40 minutes into the game, then they switched back. So Xavi was kind of experimenting and trying a bunch of different things against Bayern Munich. For all of those things to be taken into consideration, this could have gone a whole lot worse. And hopefully it will continue to get better as Barcelona have, we'll say, some lower stakes matches to kind of figure this thing out. 2 is wasteful, not awful. Back to the kind of negative. Friend of the podcast, Musa Akangwa, perfectly tweeted it, perfectly summed it up, that Barcelona were not awful. They were not inferior like so many times in recent seasons in Europe, but they were wasteful. And somehow, I think for Xavi and the players, that kind of feels worse because you feel like they probably could have won this match. And that's the unfortunate thing, that the main takeaway here is Barcelona missed chance after chance after chance after chance, being the better team for that first half. That's the part of a match, the first 45 minutes, that dictates a result. I know in the second half, so many teams come alive. But for Barcelona, they seem to either be on their game or not on their game. We have seen it so many times in Europe through the years. They either are going to show you that they're the deserving team, the better team, to take control of a match. And not so often do Barcelona just miss those chances and make you go, oh, they were good enough, but they didn't put the ball in the net. That's a weird feeling. And the weirder feeling is that it was Lewandowski. He was the guy that wasn't finishing those chances. Because I think, while the hardest pill to swallow is that Dembélé and Rafinha kept me wanting, it wasn't that I really had trouble with. Because yeah, Dembélé was losing the ball, Rafinha was having trouble with Davies, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it was Lewandowski. He wasn't the difference maker that we know he is. Not even can be, that he is. That whole game was summed up in one first half action to me. While he did give the ball away in bad spots, as I said, Dembélé was electric at times. So Dembele lays him down, gets by 3, Gabi passed to Lewandowski, but the Polish striker blasted it high. And for Lewandowski, even the weight of his passes were off. There was once when he failed to get the ball all the way across the field to Rafinha, who was 1v1, and another time he took a great touch to keep the ball in front of him with 2 defenders around him. But his pass was supposed to be into the path of Rafinha, and it was improperly weighted and too slow. And obviously the 3 missed chances are as shocking and uncharacteristic as anything you'll see. Uncharacteristic, whatever you want to say. And so I guess I have to add that silver lining again that I can't imagine. It is highly, highly unlikely that we see Lewandowski be this wasteful in an important match again. And if you ask me if I'd rather have him be this wasteful in the Champions League group stage or in the Champions League knockout rounds, I think you understand my point. 3 is highest level. I think I'm being a bit overtly positive maybe with some of these, but I think we're all feeling distraught and frustrated, and so I'm finding some silver linings. And another reason why I'm trying to be a little glass full about this is the fact that Barcelona, for the first time I can say in a long time, in an important match on a European night where all the lights are on them, this match felt like it was a Champions League knockout, a quarterfinal, a semifinal even. I'm not sure if it was final level there in Bavaria, but this match had a feel of 2 just high caliber, terrific individual players, but also well put together, well constructed teams. Defensively, especially in that first half, Barcelona were all they needed to be. That's why this match went 0-0 into the halftime break. For the rest of this group stage, if Barcelona play with that intensity and that kind of fight and that kind of desire, they will beat Inter Milan. And they will get enough points to finish second in this group. And hey, they might even get a result against Bayern Munich when they come to the Spotify Camp Nou. And when I say they'll beat Inter Milan, that's no disrespect to the Italians and what is one of the top sides in Italy. But Inter Milan don't have Alphonso Davies, Jamal Musiala, or Manuel Neuer. Neuer kept Bayern in the game in the first half. Davies is arguably the best left back in world football, and that's not just his physical tools. His positioning throughout a match is almost perfect. He's the reason the Bayern can take the chances that they do. And Musiala isn't Pedri, but he's in that group with Phil Foden and maybe Kai Havertz, but it's a very small list of young attacking midfielders that are really just the next guys, right? The next coming from the attacking midfield spot, not even number 10s, but versatility, wing, attacking midfield, even center forward at times. Musiala was just fantastic in this match. Because even when Barca were defending and playing as a unit, Davies was just killing Rafinha. That said, Rafinha, to his credit, did get his chance in the first half, but he fluffed it, as did the rest of the Barcelona forwards. And we did see that 30th minute switch between Dembele and Rafinha on the wings. And the reason I go back to Barcelona at the highest level, because when that happened, for all I just praised Davies as being arguably the best left back in the world, VAR was given a decision. And I think Koulés can leave that decision, looking at that tape, and say, that's a foul. Is it soft? Sure. Did Dembele maybe start to go down before the contact was enough to actually be brought down? Maybe that's the argument. I think that's the argument here, that for the referee saying it's not a penalty, that they felt like Dembele was already going down due to the contact that wouldn't have led to a penalty. But when you watch that, when Davies puts his foot in that manner and brings Dembele down, even as soft as it may be, unless there are cameras with the biggest lenses that we can't see on obviously Twitter or the images that we're getting, and there's a sliver of a foot that Davies got on that ball, whereas he would have had possession when he made contact with Dembele, I don't see how that's not a penalty. And then with the highest level, Barcelona were able to, I'd say, largely contain so many of those weapons that we know that Bayern have. Sadio Mane, Thomas Muller, Serge Gnabry off the bench. They could have been the difference makers, but they weren't. Instead, because Bayern Munich are flush with difference makers, it was Leroy Sané, who was the best player on the pitch coming out of the break. The move that ends to the second goal started on the wing. Musiala delivered it perfectly in his path, and then Sané just dribbled with directness right through the Barca backline, as I mentioned. We already talked about how that ended. Those were 2 moments in a sea of 90 minutes. But as we all know, those 2 minutes is all you get in Champions League football at the highest level. It doesn't change the end result, but for the themes of European nightmares, I can't say that Barcelona have played a match in the Champions League at this high of a level for arguably maybe even years. Which unfortunately is another silver lining that is going to fall flat on our hearts because, again, the result is still 2-0. 4 is that Pedri is a tactic. I'm continuing my theme with silver linings here and telling you that of all the players on the field that really impressed me, I already mentioned Davies, Musiala, but I could say even almost in loss that Pedri had an argument for man of the match in this game. At least for me moving forward, I'm going to set up my future thinking about Pedri being a man of the match here. I said that the stars need to be stars, and while some individuals on Barca can feel second best today, Pedri isn't one of them. In fact, between Kimmich, Sabitzer, Goretzka, Pedri, Gavi, and Busquets, the man or boy or mutant from Las Palmas was the best of the bunch in midfield. He's the first jab in this game to test Neuer, and his run in the second half could have made that ending much more suspenseful. I know that he did fluff his chance there, but in the 63rd minute, when that hit the post, it felt to me, if that had gone in, like the big moment was about to be captured by a player that is already at 19 a big star. It doesn't matter to this final result, but I am a bit optimistic about the return leg precisely because of what we learned from this match. In theory, the backline will improve their chemistry. In theory, Lewandowski will never be that wasteful again. And in theory, the ability of Pedri to be that press resistant isn't going anywhere. The way that he and Gavi together worked sideline to sideline, helping the attack when they needed to, defending on the counter when they needed to, and swapping flank to flank when they needed to, putting out fires constantly, I was really impressed by two, always a reminder, teenagers on this big European night. And there was a moment in particular in the 38th minute where it looked like Bayern had pinned Barca all the way back, and yet Pedri used Koundé as a release valve to get out of the pressure of 4 red shirts near his own corner. It was a kind of move that endows me with confidence that even in a return leg, even if Barcelona see Bayern Munich again, they do have an answer to the devastating press that Bayern can put forth. And that is one player in particular. Yes, Busi, Gavi, and that back line and Dembele, yes, there is technical individual brilliance on Barcelona. But they have one player in particular named Pedri, who is so good against that press and so freaking good on the ball that they're going to be able to handle Bayern Munich again. And 5 is the way through. For so many of these match reviews, I tend, because over the course of a season, talking about the same themes over and over and over again, that's why I feel like people get tired just dogging on Ferran Torres over and over again in the same way. And I know it feels like he's having the same performance over and over again, but I digress. We're going to talk about Ferran Torres on the podcast, I'm sure, about this match. No time for that here. But when I do talk about other match reviews, it's always about the 90 minutes that kind of just happened. But for this one, unlike a game like Cadiz, where you kind of just wear down the opponent and you do get rewarded with your goals, there are things I think that Barcelona can actively take forward from this match, and that I think I need to do my due diligence and call it progress and kind of take those markers and say, if Barcelona can do this better, obviously finishing the big one, then they can certainly be better in Europe. From the opening whistle, it was clear that Bayern's holes were real. All teams have those spots on the field that they don't prioritize. And Barcelona were using a combination of Dembele as an outlet, Pedri's individual press-resistant abilities, and Lewandowski dropping deep and to the wings to get out of trouble. Due to Musiala's man-marking Busquets, as many smart teams have tried to do for the last decade, Barcelona wasn't too shabby at bypassing the midfield altogether and getting it high to the wingers or to Lewandowski as the two interiors came for reinforcements. So, on paper, the tactics, I think Xavi actually got it right. Barcelona were the better team for so much of the first half because Xavi got it right. Xavi looked at the tape just like Bayern looks at Barca's tape. This is where we need to attack. This is our move forward. And yes, I think he always relies on individual brilliance, but very much like Bayern Munich, as I said before, these are two elite teams with elite individual talents. And so often these games come down to the team with the best full together, put together unit. That's why PSG have yet to win a Champions League. So that leaves us asking, is it still down to mindset? Is it still down to even Koundé and Lewandowski and Kessié and Christensen and Alonso and all these new players entering into the Blaugrana fray for them to feel the same weight of crashing out of Europe so many times? How's Lewandowski feeling that? I know he missed all those chances, but he wasn't there when Barcelona, well, he was there when Barcelona lost 8-2 to Bayern Munich, but he was on the other side. So why would he carry and take on that weight with him? So many of those players now from the 8-2, even on the field, and those 2 goals, not going to put on Ter Stegen, and whatever you put on Busi, I'm not sure you can put all of that on Busi. But it does make you wonder. They outshot their opponent, outpossessed a similarly gifted team, got fouled more, you name it. They were just better for the first 45 minutes and should have had a goal. And so they still leave on a European night having lost 2-0. And I don't think I really have the answer yet to that mindset question. It's something I want to mull over more and talk about on the podcast, which I'm plugging again, will likely be out tomorrow. Well, it should be out tomorrow unless something has gone wrong and Bayern Munich come for me too. And we will continue to discuss this game in painstaking detail from Ferran Torres and Frankie de Jong and all those substitutes and all the little details that I may have missed in this match review. So again, check that out for tomorrow. Until then, Kool-Aids, we're going to have to lick our wounds and get ready for another European night. But as I always warn, don't lick your wounds with all that negativity because there is progress to be found in this game. but also don't do it with blind optimism because Barcelona still can't get over the hurdle, and that is very, very, very frustrating. But as always, we'll culés until the very end, so Forza Barça.